And now I'd like to introduce our moderator, Yvette Dimiri. Yvette is the product manager for Stears Business, which is where she helped launch their flagship subscription product. Stears Business is a Nigeria-based publication, does long-form insight pieces focused on Nigeria's economy. If you are somebody who is interested in how organizations are experimenting with business and finance journalism today, I highly recommend following Stears Nigeria. I think they're doing incredibly smart work, and this is one of the reasons that we wanted to have Yvette today as our moderator. Before she joined Stears, Yvette was the head of audience engagement at Business Day, Nigeria's oldest business daily. She was responsible for making the audience more legible to the newsroom and the newsroom legible to the audience. She also led the digital transformation of the newsroom. And Yvette, I think we'll be starting with Conexión Migrante today instead of Krautreporter. Take it away, Yvette.
Okay, great. Thanks so much, Ariel, for the introduction. Okay, great. Can you hear me okay? Okay, great. So thanks again for the introduction. So I'll go ahead and sort of talk a bit about the wonderful panelists that we'll be inviting up. So I'll speak first about Rico Grimm. So Rico is the editor-in-chief at Krautreporter. But of course, we'll be starting first with Patricia Mercado Sánchez. And so she'll be speaking about Conexión Migrante and how essentially they had to overhaul their entire editorial strategy after realizing that they were failing to meet the information needs of their readers. Okay, great. So I think if Patricia is on the ground, maybe she would like to begin.
Oh.
Have we got you, Patricia?
Yes, I'm here. Hi, everybody. Good morning. I'm Patricia Mercado Sánchez. I'm the founder and CEO at Conexión Migrante. Let me share my presentation and we can start. As I said, I'm Patricia Mercado Sánchez. I'm the founder and CEO and in Conexión Migrante, and I'm very pleased to be here. Before I start, I want to tell you my background because maybe that story is related with how changes are always good signs about the future. I started in journalism at El Economista, a national specialized newspaper with the most traditional way to produce news. After 15 years working in that newspaper, I went to Stanford University to be part of the JSK program in 2007, and there's the change of my life started. And Conexión Migrante was born as an idea. But before sharing our experience as media outlet, we would like to invite you to close your eyes and try to feel the fear of an immigrant, to feel the fear of losing your job, the fear of losing your family, your house, your life. That is the fear Juan Manuel had when he decided to send a message to Conexión Migrante, a message that made us to find the path. Conexión Migrante was launched on November 8, 2016, the day that Donald Trump won the presidency of the United States. At that time, we had the notion that Mexican immigrants in the United States will be homesick. We thought that they would be nostalgic about their roots, about what was happening with the place they left. So we started offering them basically information about Mexico related to politics, security, economy, and their hometowns, besides what Trump was saying or announcing. We really thought that was something that they would value, but the numbers were terrible bad. I made that joke in those days about it. I said only our friends and family were reading us. As I mentioned before, in January 2017, we received a Facebook message from Juan Manuel, a Mexican immigrant who had a son born in the United States and needed to register him as a Mexican citizen. This father was worried that Trump's immigration policy changes would force him to return to Mexico, and he wanted to be prepared, but nobody in the consulate or any other organization helped him. Our small team researched the issue in minutes and offered him an advice. After solving Juan Manuel's question, we said, maybe it's a good idea to write a story about it. And this story became the first one to reach more than 2,000 page views in a month. Many more articles were written. We realized that Mexican immigrants needed very simple, basic, and urgent information to survive that difficult times. The success of this story shows us that we had to consider immigrants' questions as a principal key to define our editorial agenda. Our numbers start growing as fast as we produce useful information for those terrible days for immigrants, especially Mexicans. We wrote about IDs, DACA rules, how to protect from ICE, and so on. And you can see in this chart how we were in zero practically from November and December. And in January, when we start writing this kind of articles, the magic started. Besides, the geographic location of the visitors started to be in the United States, the market we were planning to reach. In those days, 80% of all our audience were in the US. A couple of months later, that message, we have another experience that changed our perspective. A man on our audience was illiterate, so he couldn't read our articles, but he sent us a voice message telling us he needed help. We decided to give him our phone number, and a few minutes later, he called. He was afraid of being deported and needed advice. It allowed us to realize that many immigrants did not have technological knowledge, but it was precisely these people who had the most information needs. They did not need breaking news, but a much more specific, personalized, and human attention. And so began our change of direction. From writing articles based on our editorial point of view as a journalist, we quickly changed to listen to the audience and follow their needs. After that, we started writing articles and organizing basic and useful information for the immigrant community, and they started consulting our website. Every year, almost 5 million users visit the website. We realized that the immigrant community needs clear and simple information to make better decisions. The current core of Conexión Migrante's work has little to do with nostalgia anymore, and more to do with the future of immigrants in the United States and all the American continent. The information we offer has to do with the practical needs of immigrants. We attend to the issues that matter most to them. Then we discovered that we need to open new channels to listen to the audience, to understand them, and to receive their feedback. Today, Conexión Migrante has a WhatsApp service, a Facebook Live program, a call center attending people calls and messages. We really believe that the kind of journalism we do really change people's life. This is Conexión Migrante, a unique platform in the world that offers information, advice, and support to the immigrant community. We are a team made up of journalists, TI experts, and a diverse group of people from many disciplines that has a solid commitment, supporting the Mexican and Latino immigrant community in the United States and the Latin American immigrants in Mexico and the region. But we wanted to go a little further. And remembering the idea Cristina Tardaquila said just the first day of the summit, it was a mistake to create a media outlet only with journalists. I agree with that. Our audience team is made by internationalists, psychologists, historians, and immigration experts. They create a great mix for the immigrants, another point of view or perspective that let us now understand better the needs of people and create content. Now we receive more than 1,500 phone calls, messages, or emails every month asking for information or help. We listen to the audience. That is our best job. And after recognizing and learn from our initial mistakes, let me talk about our membership project. Because we wanted to create a community with deep knowledge of their needs. We applied and got a grant to develop, with the valuable support of the MPP, a free membership called Amigos de Conexión Migrante, to provide immigrants quality information and other benefits. With Amigos de Conexión Migrante, we want to be as flexible as possible and create two figures to be part of the membership: the immigrants who need help, advice, and quality information, and the people, organizations, or companies who want to help immigrants. Actually, we just set an agreement with an immigrant lawyer who will give us 2 pro bono hours and an economic donation per month to help us sustain the project. We are really the connection between them. Into the membership, we create a new concept, the Wiki Migrante. It is a great, powerful search engine that lets immigrants to information and advice cards about the procedures they perform the most. It is one of the benefits we give to the members of Amigos de Conexión Migrante, but soon we want to open this content to all the audience. This year too, we were grantees from the Gabriel Garcia Marquez Foundation, Fundación Gabo, to investigate about children who have become orphans in the US because their Mexican parents died from COVID. Once again, we confirm the importance of being attentive, open to listening, and being flexible. During the journalistic investigation, we discovered that a powerful network of immigrants, members of civil society, spontaneously organized themselves in New York to help other immigrants during the worst months of the pandemic in 2020. We published this story in June this year. In Conexión Migrante, we want to keep growing our work network, and we really believe our next natural step is to support immigrants from the entire Latin America, a region which is experiencing an intense and dynamic migration process among countries, especially Venezuela and the Northern Triangle of Central America. The experiment just started, and our traffic registered record numbers with 3.5 million visits to the webpage in a month. The challenge is big. We sincerely would like to support more people and to provide them truly life-changing journalism. And remember, a big mistake could be a big success. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Patricia. I hope everyone learned as much as I did from that presentation. So I'd like to sort of jump right into questions, if that's all right. Can you hear me, Patricia? We're good?
Yes.
Okay, great. So I'd like to encourage everyone to please, okay, great. So I would like to encourage everyone to please continue to send in your questions. So we'll jump right in. So could you please, just talk a bit about the workflow involved when you're turning a question from an immigrant into a story for the site, or even to a product like Wiki Migrante?
Yeah, at first we received phone calls, and if the subject, the question of the immigrants, it's a regular one, many people is calling and asking the same, or it's a very interesting procedure for the immigrants, then we talk, the audience team talk with the newsroom, and they talk about the viability to write an article. After that, they write the article, publish it, promote it in Facebook. That is our big social network. And we start measuring all the reactions and the comments of that information. To be part of Wiki Migrante, we have many categories, and we try to fit this information in one of the category, and another person in the team of the newsroom try to convert this journalistic article in a file with very precise information to make the Wiki Migrante file. And when the Wiki Migrante file is ready, then they put it in Wiki Migrante and start growing. Our main traffic now, I could say 70% of our traffic is with this kind of articles, evergreen articles about procedures, programs, and all the ideas to create these articles came directly from the immigrants who are calling us or sending us messages.
think maybe we lost Yvette's connection. Can you hear me, Patricia?
Yes, I
Okay.
can hear you.
Okay. I'll just move into a question that we received from
Great.
Patricia
Thank you
Torres
so much.
Bird.
So we have another question that we'll take from Chani Guyot.
Yvette, we're getting a pretty bad connection from you, so I'll ask Chani's question, if that's okay. It's pretty broken up on your end. Chani is asking, Patricia, how much human effort is put into this service journalism approach? Can it be escalated by technology? Are there ways that you can automate this?
It's too difficult to answer. We try it, but it was not a good experiment. We tried to put a bot in to answer the questions in Messenger specifically. But when we started doing that, the people stopped calling or looking for us. It's a very special way to have a relationship with the immigrants because they don't want anything automatic. They need a human voice. They need a human being answering the questions. We recovered from that experiment because we did it, I think, the last months of last year, I think, and our conversation with the immigrants were almost zero. They hate the bot, and then we quit this experiment because one of the big success of Conexión Migrante is to be close to the immigrants. And they suffer a lot because they try to make phone calls, for example, to the consulates or some organizations in the US specifically, and they never had answers. We discovered that if we answer them always, then they will trust in us. Then it's difficult to find a technological tool to help us with that. It's only human beings working with them.
Yeah, I mean, I think that that's something that we'll hear about more tomorrow from KPCC in Los Angeles. When you're helping people, when they are feeling fear or anxiety, you have to be really careful about sort of the automation of that work if you want people to feel safe and like you're listening to them. I think that's a great point. We have a question also from Patricia Torres Bird at MDIF. She says, I love that you learned from your errors. What's your #1 recommendation for those who are thinking about membership? In essence, what do you wish you had known then that you've learned now?
I could say we are trying to build a community. And if you want to be part of that community, you need to listen very, very carefully to the people, to the audience. It's not only numbers, it's not only some subjects, important subjects, it's human beings talking to you, and you have to take that job like a real one, like a very important. I could say you have to listen on the time. Last year, with the pandemic, we were doing our same job and the numbers were dropped. It was terrible because the immigrant in that moment, they don't need procedures and programs and nothing at all. They need jobs, they need help, advices, they need programs for giving them food. And we change in that moment too. I think never be afraid of change. I think change is always good. And maybe in that moment when nothing is working and everything is wrong, you say, oh my God, I will not do it. But changes are always good, and changes learn you how to do better things. I would say, listen to your audience always, day or night, like an obsession for you.
Thank you. That's a great lesson to be obsessed with that. We have a question from Danny at the Jolt. He says, when you mentioned that some of your audience has literacy challenge, I wondered if you had made use of the speech to text technologies to read stories out loud. How do they read? Yeah, on the site.
Sometimes they call and then we can explain all the articles for them. But precisely this week, I'm having a meeting with somebody who will help us to record some of the articles, the most read articles, for the people who cannot read or write.
Thank you. We have a question from Julia Krasnikova. She said, hi, Patricia, can you specify one more time, what is your offer to members? What's the price for being a member? Do you choose the NGOs that are part of the membership, or do they themselves come to you with this request? Yeah, I think it'd be great to just really break down, what does it mean to be a Conexión Migrante member? How do you differentiate between those who are joining for free and others?
If you want to be a member, it's a free membership. You don't need to pay anything. But we realized we didn't charge any money for the immigrants. We are working with the most vulnerable. Sorry, this is a terrible word for me. And for that reason, we decide to have a free membership. But we divide the members in two. The first ones are the regular immigrants who need help, who don't have enough money to pay anything, any kind of service. And in the other hand is the organizations or people or companies who offer services for immigrants, who offer advices, who offer information or help. And these members has to do something with us. First, maybe they have to pay something to make a donation. We have this figure to make donations directly to the page. And they can offer services with a discount for the members of the membership. Or like this immigration lawyer that we just signed an agreement that she's giving us 2 pro bono hours for immigrants and plus money for us to sustain the project. It's a very good way to get money from the membership, even if we don't expect a big amount of money. We don't know. We are experimenting. We are just working with the membership 1 year. And I think we need to do more experiments with the members who has money or some services or products to offer the immigrant community.
Thanks, Patricia. Yvette, looks like we've got you back. Do you have any more questions for Patricia?
Yeah, sorry about the connection issue earlier. Yes, so Patricia, I wanted to ask, you talked about the cross-functional nature of your audience team, psychologists, journalists. Can you talk about how that team has evolved, to why you decided to have such a mix to serve your audience?
We start hiring 2 internationalists. One of them, now she is the editor of the audience team, Selene, and she's an internationalist with a Master of Human Rights for Immigrants. Then the concept and how to treat the immigrants, how to talk with them, what kind of advices they need. It was very rich knowledge from Selene and the other person who was there. Now we have we wrote the audience team, and we have a very young people specialized in this area, psychologists and historians. One of the historians is working with Honduran immigration, and then he knows about this kind of phenomena in the country. They don't write anything. They don't want to be journalists. They don't want to write articles. And the training for them is how to listen people who is in trouble, who is not patient enough to be nice in a phone call, who is maybe just calling, not asking for anything, but for somebody to talk. And I think now our effort has to be with how all this work can be converted in articles. Some of the oldest, they are not old, they are very young old, but some of the oldest members in Conexión Migrante has all the experience talking with immigrants, because before 4 or 3 years ago, we were just only 2 or 3 people working there. But we have the experience to connect how to create an article, and it will be working after somebody asks something. And I don't know, I think it's journalistic knowledge, but we know when somebody asks us something very difficult and that nobody knows, when we start to research how this is the procedure or the steps, we can realize if this article will work or don't. It's a good mix, and we are trying to create a good communication between the audience team and the journalistic team.
Thank you, Patricia. It looks like we've gone through all the questions for Patricia. Rico is having some connection issues, and it looks like we won't get Krautreporter right now, but I'm going to put Yvette on the spot because she has also brought audience revenue to Nigeria. And I want to hear a little bit more about how Stears has figured out what its audience is and how to serve them. Thank you so much, Patricia, for joining.
Thank you.
Yvette, I'm curious, what sort of assumptions did Stears begin? Oh, we'll ask one question to Yvette and then we'll move on to Rico. Yvette, I'm curious, what assumptions did Stears have about its audience when you got started, and which of those turned out to be true, and which of those did you realize over time you needed to sort of reevaluate?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think, so we've been a subscription-based publication for about a year now. And right before we started, we really actually did not know, we really didn't have a place to sort of start making assumptions. We didn't know what the primary value, we had never had a fully employed full-time team. So that was one of the first things we jumped in to try and assess. And so in lieu of sort of making these assumptions, I think we wanted to just speak directly to the audience. And we started conducting a few market research surveys, speaking directly to some of our most engaged customers to really find out what value they derived from Stears. So we went kind of a different route. So it's really interesting to hear from other publications when they set assumptions and how they figure out what's not working for them. Yeah.
Thanks, Yvette. I will hand it off to you now to introduce Rico, and I think Rico will bring up his presentation. All right, I'm going to head off screen now.
Okay, thanks, Ariel. All right, so hi, Rico. So I'll just introduce you briefly. So Rico Grimm is the editor-in-chief of the German newsroom, Krautreporter. So he'll be speaking with us today about what Krautreporter learned from losing half of its founding members at the end of the first year, and how they changed their approach to become a really strong member-driven community that they are today. So Rico, if you're happy to share your screen now, you can jump in.
Yes, hello. Ariel was very nice. She said I was having connection issues, but in fact I was having time zone issues. So anyhow, I'm going to share my screen now. Thank you very much for the invitation. It was even a trip for me to go back 7 years and think about what we did right and what we did wrong. So first foremost, I'm the editor-in-chief of Krautreporter and one of the co-founders. If you have any questions after the talk or like in a couple of days, please don't hesitate to shoot me an email. I'm more than happy to talk about what we learned and about the mistakes you could avoid, the mistakes we made. So Krautreporter is an online magazine. We only publish 5 articles a week, so that's 20 articles a month. We are membership based. We don't have any advertisements. And how this came, and we have 16,000 members right now. How we reach this point is the topic of my talk and my presentation today. And just to give you a quick overview how it started and how it's going. Oh, sorry. So the picture on the left is the what people saw when they visited Krautreporter.de in June 2014. That's when our crowdfunding started, and the picture on the right is what they see when they visit Krautreporter.de today. So in 2014, we started out with a very diverse group of reporters. We were 25 or 30 people, and most of them freelancers. We were all, in a sense, independent journalists that didn't want to work or didn't work in legacy media. So we banded together to pitch the idea, to pitch the public one idea that, and in 2014, that was, especially in Germany, a novel thing, that very good high quality journalism can be work online only, so that you don't need to subsidize it via print or any other, or via e-commerce portals or whatever. 2014, if you remember it, that was the time of massive clickbait on Facebook. I don't know, like you wouldn't believe what happens next, headlines. So, and the high quality journalism that got produced was not put online by many media organizations, especially not in Germany. So when we pitched this idea to the public, they were very enthusiastic about it. We got mentions in all the big media organizations in Germany. Everybody looked how the crowdfunding was going. It was a real roller coaster ride, but we made it in the end. And still to date, it's Germany's biggest crowdfunding. We got 1 million euros and 17,500 supporters. So sounds good, sounds nice. Everything should have been going according to plan after that, but that's not what happened. Because 1 year later, we only had 5 supporters, we had no supporters, and people were asking on Twitter if we still exist. So we were at a real low point, because we made a couple of mistakes. And these mistakes were crucial. The first one, and that's the most crucial one, was that our vision of what Crowdreporter should be was not aligned with the perception of what it should be. So people were giving us money for something that we didn't want to do in the first place. So we thought we're gonna create a platform for independent journalists to get money for their journalism. So think Substack, think Patreon, think Steady, but only 5 or 3 years earlier, before any of these platforms got established. But what the audience actually wanted was a magazine. They wanted to get, so they brought their traditional, more traditional perceptions of what a media platform should look like, and were a little bit disappointed when we launched. So, and we had some internal struggles as well. So the vision was not even clear to the people who started the whole project. So that was partly due because we had to be fast, and there was a window of opportunity that we needed to use. Otherwise, the whole thing might have not happened. So it was the most crucial mistake we made. We didn't have a clear vision. We didn't communicate it well, and we didn't even agree on the vision within the team. So the second one is one thing that many journalists especially overlook quite often. It's we had no marketing and no product people. And this was, especially the marketing people are very important. This is something probably every one of you knows. It's very, very hard to generate leads, to get new members, to get new subscriptions, whatever. And we completely underestimated how hard it is. And the third thing is, it's a detail actually, but it made all the difference. We didn't crowdfund memberships. So we didn't crowdfund ongoing payments year after year. No, we crowdfunded a one-time payment. And this was what almost drove us into ruin, to be honest. Like, because in a sense, you can count on the laziness of people to stick with you, even though they might not read you. But then this is not what happened. But then again, maybe that was an advantage as well. Why? I will come back to this point later, but why it was an advantage. So what did we do in response? First of all, we consolidated the newsroom. So after many left voluntarily of the initial group that started Krautreporter, some of them, actually all of them left more or less voluntarily, but then the budget was shrinking anyway, so there wasn't too much money to be made anymore. And we put the resources we had into hiring more permanent staff, so people who would be still freelancers in a sense, but who would dedicate a huge chunk of their time to Krautreporter. And then we did another crowdfunding campaign in disguise, because we didn't label it as that, but we asked our readers, people who were reading us regularly, to become members, to subscribe, to pay regularly for Krautreporter, and not only once in their lifetime. And this was in summer 2015, and we did a lot of we put a lot of work into it, but we only got 4,200 members or something like this, 4,500. So in fact, we didn't only half our membership base or our supporter base. We actually went down to 1/3 of it, or even less, 80%. But one thing that we did in response that was most important is that we sat together as a team and really very ruthlessly developed a new vision for what Krautreporter should be, because there was stuff already that was working, and we saw it, and people were engaged, and some people loved us, and we used that to generate a new framework. So that was a very intense time. It was very chaotic because we had to produce journalism on the side as well. So we started a process of establishing a cooperative. Cooperative in Germany means that it's like a, in fact, it's like a company on the stock market. Everyone can buy shares, but each owner only has one vote. So it's not possible to buy the organization and to buy influence in the organization. That's a model perfectly suited for journalism, in a sense. The second thing what we did is we radically transformed our whole thinking. So we asked, what do our reporters need to produce high quality journalism, and what do our members need? So these were, in a sense, the only two questions that were relevant for us. We completely shut down what happened on Twitter and in the media world at large. So we focused on building the product. And then we established, out of experience and out of analyzing what worked for us, 3 principles that we use to date to guide us in our editorial decisions. The first one is engage, the second one is explain, and the third one is personalize. So if we commission a new story, these are the 3 principles we use to see if this is a Krautreporter story or not. In the summer of 2015, these principles were not, we were not aware of these principles. We were doing them, we were using them already, but we were not aware of them. So, and this was the first time that we actually put them into writing and made it into a conscious act to use them. And the fourth thing was also a technical thing, but very, very important, was we introduced the paywall. And just alone introducing this paywall made, I was on vacation at that time, and I came back, I looked into our new members channel where all the new memberships roll in, and I was happy for the rest of the day, because I think within 1 month, we had the growth of half a year compressed into 1 month. So a little bit more color on that is, how did we do it in detail? The first thing is we went into a 2-day retreat to clear the air. And it was really, everybody sat down, had a piece of paper written where everything was written down, what we should do, what he was angry, what he didn't like, the feelings, everything. It was a very convoluted process, but that was very important. It was, in a sense, the second founding meeting, or the second meeting where Krautreporter got established. And then we started to build the newsroom inside out. So usually you start with a product, and then you find a team to execute on it. But we did it the other way around, because what we noticed is, while talking to our members, is if you want to do trust-based journalism, what membership-based journalism in essence is, then it needs to be about the people producing it. So because people like to talk to other people, in the internet, they rather trust other people than brand names, in a sense. So what else did we do? Of the 4,200 or 4,500 members and people that stayed with us after the first year, we engaged them. We asked them, why did you stay with us? What made you pay again, even though you didn't need to, and even though our start was a little bit, well, how to put it, complicated? And what they told us was very valuable. And a lot of the stuff that they tell us is something that we still discuss up 7 years later. For example, they didn't say, because I like the idea of Krautreporter. No, they said, because I like the articles by this and this reporter. This was the moment where we realized that our reporters are very, very important. Or then they pointed out the specific type of article which they liked, and we realized that we were the only ones doing this specific type of article, and so on and so on. And after that, on an even more detailed thing, is we introduced only one KPI. And I think, let's put it this way, at this time it was novel to have KPIs in a journalism organization. Like, to have them at all was something novel in Germany, let's put it this way. So we had one KPI, and that was new members. Everything else didn't matter. We wanted to have new members, and we were very focused on only that KPI. And a second thing that was very important is we shared these KPIs, these numbers, with everyone. So in the beginning, everyone could see how much money Krautreporter had, how much we were making. We could see, broken down on the article level, how many members did this article generate, how many people read it on Facebook, and so on and so on and so on. And this gave us a very good sense on what worked and what didn't work. And that was an advantage. And we just stopped doing what didn't work. In a sense, we had to stop doing what didn't work, because we were so small. We didn't have a lot of resources. We couldn't afford to waste any of the time or money or work time we have. So in a sense, it was not the worst thing that could have happened to us to lose 70% of our members or of our first-time supporters, because it gave us a second chance, and to actually start building a product, start building a magazine that people want to read and that people understand, let's put it this way. And that was actually the most fun part of the whole process, is that if people think you're dead, you can do whatever you like. We had like the craziest ideas, the craziest topics, whatever, just do it. Because once you had this near-death experience, you realize that not everything is as important as you think it is, and if this becomes a working principle of yours, then you can start to experiment, and you can start to do stuff that is outside of the box. And this is how actually we found out that the one thing that connects everything, and what Krautreporter does, is that we are very good at doing deep background journalism. We are very good at explaining things. We are very good at looking okay, there's a huge debate going on in Germany right now. One side is saying this, another side is saying this, and we actually stand right in the middle and show that both sides are right, and so on and so on. So, and this is what our claim became. You can find it everywhere on the homepage, is verstehe die Zusammenhänge, understand the connections. So that is a very clear pitch. We help our readers, our members, to understand what's happening in the world and how everything is connected to everything. This is one example. This the most successful article in the history of Krautreporter, measured by KPI new members. It's the conflict in the Middle East and Israel and Palestine explained. Very basic. It's and people wrote us, thank you for this article. You helped my daughter. My daughter used it for her school exams, and she did very well. Just 2 or 3 months ago, this article, it's 5 years old, came back again via Google and brought us new members in. And stuff like this is what other media organizations at that time didn't do. And so it gave us an edge. So people were only getting push notifications on their phone, something happening in the Middle East, but they didn't really understand what was happening there because nobody bothered to give them the basics of this conflict. And actually, if you would read this article, it starts with the basics. What is Israel? What is Palestine? What is all this about? And as you can see here, this is our journey. The numbers in the beginning, 2017 and 18, they are not correct because we churned out members, like we changed the system. Starting with 2018, the numbers are correct. And if you can see at the end of 2020, end of last year, we had a small, we stopped growing, let's put it this way. And what we did is, because we learned that if you talk to our members, they help us. So what we did do is we started a campaign and asked them, help us. We need to get more members. And this worked very, very well. We used our email, we used our newsletters to engage them mainly. And we got 1,500 new members, and you can see the bump in the growth curve. Yes, and now it's 2021, and in a sense, we have to do everything again because we are realizing that a lot of the stuff that worked for us very, very well is not working anymore due to a lot of reasons. One of the main reasons is that other media organizations have bright people working for them, realizing what is happening and doing the same stuff as we are. And we are a small media organization. We cannot compete on reach. We cannot compete on money or marketing or ad spend or something like that. So we need to reinvent ourselves. And if you would ask me what Krautreporter looks like in 5 years, it might be more similar to the original vision of 2014, more like a platform, less like a magazine. But let's see how this is turning out and playing out. Thank you. And I'm sorry again for being late.
Thanks, Rico. Thank you so much. That was quite a story. So we'll just jump right into questions. Because of time, we'll have time for 2 questions. So the first one is really just thinking about this new phase of growth for Krautreporter. I'm curious what has been sort of the biggest test to your vision so far in this new phase?
The biggest test to our vision in this new phase is plateauing in growth. Like really, this is something because this in the beginning we had energy for 100 people because, as I said, we were dead in a sense. We could do whatever we like. Now we have matured and we are a real company, and we have a lot of new people working for us who didn't experience what we experienced in the beginning. So it's so the biggest challenge is right now to actually don't forget what happened in the beginning and to keep this vision in a sense.
Yeah, okay, that makes a lot of sense. Great, so we'll take the next question from Piana. So she says, hello Rico, or he says, hello Rico, thank you for your presentation. When the crowdfunding campaign was launched and then the paywall was implemented, how many followers did you have and how much content was Krautreporter publishing daily or weekly?
So when the crowdfunding campaign was launched, we had, I don't know, on our Facebook page, Facebook was still a thing at this time, about 10,000 followers, I don't know. But the people who launched it, like the 25 reporters who launched it, they were famous. They were not famous like Miley Cyrus is famous, but they were brand names in the journalism scene. So that made quite a splash, let's put it this way. And when the paywall was in, when the paywall was implemented, I implemented obviously this number had grown, and we still only publish 5 articles a week. So in the beginning, we said like, okay, we're gonna do like 5 or 4 articles a day, and we realized very, very soon that's not what people want. They don't need 80 articles a month to understand what's happening in the world. They need 20, but these 20 need to be well researched, well presented, and so on and so on and so on. So I hope that answers your question.
Great, thank you. So we have time for one more actually. So we'll take one from Anne, who's asking, can you specify the elements that were copied by other media? I think you spoke about it in one of your last slides. Supposedly are these more successful elements, or yeah, if you could just talk a bit more about the copying.
Okay, there's a couple of points. The first one is stuff that we just naturally did in 2014 because the time was right and we were new and we just could start to do it. The other organizations realized this well. For example, I got taught in journalism school that reporters don't say I in the article or me. What a stupid rule in the age of the internet. And we just abandoned this rule right from the beginning. We discarded it. We said everybody can say whatever he likes in his articles. There's a real person doing journalism, not an objective robot doing it. Other media organizations started to use this as well. And so the subjective approach to topics is something that was unique in the beginning. It's not unique anymore. Second thing is explaining stuff, like giving deep background. Other organizations realize that this is something you need if you want to run a successful online-only subscription business, because people will not pay for commodity news, you know. And the third thing is the focus on reporters. I mean, in the US, and it's way, I think the US is 1 year ahead of Germany, but in Germany you can see the Substack effect as well. That reporters become a brand, and the brands of reporters carry your organization. It's not the other way around as it used to be 20 years ago. And you can see it in what other media organizations, what they are doing, that they are trying to establish reporter brands as well. We started this 5 or 6 years ago, but because we were so small, nobody noticed. Yes, so that's mainly it. One thing they didn't copy yet, because they are not culturally fit to do it, is engagement. So if you're small, use it. Really, this is a weapon, and the other news organizations have not realized how powerful a weapon it is yet. You know, it's a newsroom of 200 people, and they don't even know how to organize it. News engagement with their membership, with their members.